In a year where tentative olive branches from Montecito seemed poised to mend the fractured bonds of the House of Windsor, Prince Harry's whirlwind trips to the UK and Canada have instead ignited fresh storms of palace intrigue, with overlapping schedules exposing raw nerves, unspoken resentments, and the ever-present shadow of financial strains tied to his independent ventures, all while whispers of a brief paternal reunion hint at glimmers of hope overshadowed by brotherly standoffs that could reshape the monarchy's future for generations. I'm glad you've joined me as we begin to unpick the layers of this development, examining the subtle undercurrents that define these royal dynamics. Picture, if you will, the scene back in September 2025 when Prince Harry touched down in London for what was billed as a series of charity engagements, but beneath the surface, a well-placed source within palace circles reveals the Duke harbored a quiet determination to bridge the gulf with his father, King Charles. His inner monologue likely swirling with a mix of regret over past public disclosures and a defiant resolve to reclaim some familial warmth without conceding ground on his California life. The atmosphere at Clarence House that afternoon was thick with cautious optimism, the air heavy with the pressure of unsaid words accumulated over 19 months of estrangement, as aides hovered discreetly, aware that any leak could derail the fragile process. And indeed, their hour-long tea reunion, marked by hugs and perhaps a few tears, according to a source close to the inner circle, carried the weight of Charles's own vulnerabilities, his ongoing health battles lending an urgency to reconciliation. Yet the long-term consequences loom large. For while this meeting signaled a potential thawing, it also underscored Harry's isolation from the core institution, potentially locking him into a perpetual limbo where financial independence through ventures like Netflix deals becomes even more precarious if full royal reintegration remains elusive. As the dust settled from that emotional encounter, the narrative shifted to November, when Harry's solo jaunt to Toronto for Remembrance Day events unfolded amid mounting tensions, his internal reflections perhaps tinged with a soldier's pride in honoring veterans through meetings with Canada's reserve forces and a fundraiser for the Halo Trust, a cause dear to his late mother's legacy, but laced with frustration over the family's perceived indifference to his efforts. The surrounding pressure was palpable, with Canadian hosts beaming at the Duke's presence at Sunnybrook Hospital and the National Tribute Dinner. Yet back in London, palace aides seethed in private, claiming they were blindsided by the itinerary despite Harry's team insisting otherwise, creating an electric atmosphere of distrust that echoed through transatlantic calls and hurried memos. And this clash, Harry stepping out on November 5th, just as Prince William dazzled at his Earthshot Prize ceremony in Rio de Janeiro, fueled gossip of deliberate sabotage, though a longtime family acquaintance suggests it stemmed more from disorganized communication than malice. The broader implications are profound, as such oversights erode any momentum from the September reunion, potentially entrenching William's resolve to protect his own nuclear family from what he views as Harry's unpredictable orbit. And in the long run, this could diminish the Invictus Games' prestige if royal endorsements wane, forcing Harry to lean harder on Hollywood alliances that, while lucrative, carry their own risks of public backlash and financial volatility. Delving deeper into the reconciliation push, one can't ignore Harry's earlier gesture in July, when he reportedly offered to share his personal diary with the royals in a bid to deconflict schedules. His inner monologue likely a blend of pragmatic strategy and a yearning for normalcy, imagining a world where family gatherings aren't marred by media frenzies. The atmosphere around this olive branch was one of guarded skepticism, with Buckingham Palace sources behind closed doors murmuring about the Duke's motives, pressured by the need to safeguard the King's diary amid his duties and health concerns, while William's camp remained aloof, adding layers of emotional strain as Harry grappled with feelings of rejection. Yet the long-term fallout is telling, for although this move aimed to prevent future embarrassments like the Canada overlap, it highlighted the Sussexes' outsider status, where even basic coordination requires negotiation, and this could perpetuate a cycle of isolation that impacts not just personal relationships, but the monarchy's global image. as public fatigue with the drama might erode support for the institution, indirectly affecting the funding streams that sustain it. Amid these maneuvers, the brief King Charles reunion in September stands as a poignant counterpoint where Charles, ever the dutiful monarch, might have internally wrestled with paternal affection versus institutional loyalty, his thoughts drifting to his grandchildren, Archie and Lilibet, whom he's met only fleetingly. The Clarence House setting imbued with a somber pressure from aides eager to keep the meeting low-key, lest it inflame William's reservations. A well-meaning staff member confides that the king's cancer journey has softened his stance, fostering an environment ripe for incremental healing, yet the consequences extend far beyond, as any perceived favoritism toward Harry risks alienating William, the heir apparent, whose focus on his own family's stability, amid Catherine's health challenges, could solidify a divided court, with ripple effects on succession planning and the distribution of royal patronages that carry significant financial weight. Turning to the brotherly rift that underpins it all, William's deliberate distancing, as articulated by insiders like Princess Diana's former butler, paints a picture of a future king inwardly fortifying himself against what he sees as a leaky sieve of leaks and tell-alls, his monologue perhaps echoing a sense of betrayal from their once inseparable bond, now strained by public barbs in memoirs and interviews. The atmosphere in Kensington Palace circles is one of resolute protectionism, pressured by the demands of throne preparation and family privacy, especially post-2025's flurry of engagements that clashed with Harry's. And this standoff's enduring impact is stark. It not only stalls any holiday reunions hoped for in late 2025, but could fracture the monarchy's unity in the eyes of the Commonwealth, where Harry's independent philanthropy, though admirable, competes for attention and donors, potentially siphoning resources from official channels and heightening the Sussex's reliance on high-stakes deals that, if they falter, expose them to the very financial dramas they've sought to escape. As we reflect on these entangled threads, it's clear that Harry's mapping of a battle plan for reconciliation, eyeing the 2027 Invictus Games in Birmingham as a symbolic olive branch, stems from an inner drive to reclaim his place without full surrender, his thoughts likely oscillating between optimism for a joint appearance with William and cynicism over past snubs. The surrounding pressure mounts from both sides of the Atlantic, with Montecito's glossy ventures clashing against Windsor's stoic traditions, and a source within the inner circle notes the Duke's demands for concessions, like security assurances and title clarifications, add fuel to the fire, creating an impasse that William views as uncompromising. Ultimately, the long-term stakes are immense, for if this push fails, it could cement a permanent schism, diminishing the royal brand's allure and forcing Harry into ever more precarious financial maneuvers, while the king navigates his twilight years with a divided legacy, leaving us to ponder whether true intrigue lies not in the quarrels themselves, but in the quiet, inexorable drift toward irrelevance for those who step too far from the fold.